Hi Jeanne, this is Mike from Stagecoach Road Vintage Sewing Machine, and this is, after all this time, your Pfaff 130. I'll give her another little polish before I send her off. I have not yet been able to find a lampshade, but I think that I can repair this one. I've done it before. But I'm going to send your machine back, and I'm going to hold on to your whole light assembly until I either find another shade or get this one fixed up for you. So this is the final test before I pack her up to ship her out to you. And in this test, we're going to go over the basic operation of the machine, how to thread her, how to wind the bobbin, set the stitch length, stitch width, how to work the coffee grinder attachment on the back. You may already be really familiar with this machine, but in case you're not, or if you just need a little brush up, the video will be there to help. And it'll give me a chance to just make sure that I didn't miss anything in the restoration process. So for starters, we're going to wind a bobbin. So let's take the thread off, since I'm going to show you how to thread the machine anyway. Let's see. So to wind the bobbin, put your spool on the spool pin, and you'll find your bobbin down here below the slide plate. For me, I find it easier to tip the machine back and pull the bobbin case out. Make sure your needle's up out of the needle hole, and then you'll find the little latch on the bobbin case. And this latch, as long as you're holding it, the bobbin's not going to fall out. So let go of the latch and drop the bobbin out. And there's some thread on there that I'm going to pull off. There's absolutely no sense in winding over old thread. So you put your spool on the spool pin, go under the thread guide here, and over the top of this little tensioner, right here, down to the bobbin winder tensioner, between the two discs of that tensioner, and up to your bobbin. This is your bobbin winder up here. That presses it against the hand wheel to make it go. That releases it. So let's put the thread through one of the holes in the side and then slide it onto the bobbin winder. Press this lever down to put your the rubber tire up against the hand wheel to spin it, and then declutch your machine by turning the chrome knob in the hand wheel towards you, 1/8 of a turn or so, not very much, it's only like an inch. That releases the hand wheel so that it can spin without making the machine cycle. To wind your bobbin, I'm going to take a, let's see, There is a little keeper pin on the bobbin winder spindle. So when you put your bobbin on, turn the rubber tire a few times until that little keeper pin goes into the slot on the side of the bobbin. Now with the hand wheel declutched, press it in, hold the tail of your thread, and plug it in. Okay, so holding the tail of the thread, here we go. Don't need to go fast. Make sure that it stays in the little tension device down here. Okay, that should be plenty for our demonstration. So click this little finger up to release the bobbin winder. Reclutch your machine by tightening the chrome knob. And with the thread coming off the top of the bobbin in this direction, drop it into the bobbin case and direct the thread up into this little slanted slot on the side and up under the flat leaf spring of the bobbin case, which is your lower tension. The screw in the middle is your lower tension, and if you need a little more tension for a certain type of fabric or a little less tension, you can turn this screw just like in tiny increments until you get the tension that you need. Holding the latch open, and with the open part of the bobbin case facing up, slide it back onto the spindle of the bobbin race. Turn it until it drops in all the way and kind of snaps into place. Just make sure it's all the way in. That's bobbin winding. Then to thread the machine, I'm going to use a little better quality of thread than you need for the bobbin. Put your bobbin on the, put your spool on the spool pin, go under the thread guide again and up over this little tension device, then down between the discs of the tension assembly all the way around to the top again, and then pick up this little check spring. Go behind that little check spring. And from there, under the big thread guide next to it, into this thread guide here, the big curlicue thread guide, and then through the take-up lever from the right to the left. I've got way more thread than I need here for that. So it doesn't matter which of the two holes in the take-up lever you use. Then this thread guide on the front, you can just slide your thread in from the side. And there's one more thread guide right down here on the needle clamp. You go behind that. Then you go through the needle from the front of the machine towards the back. And if you have a hard time seeing the needle hole, slip a piece of white paper behind it, and the needle hole just becomes instantly obvious. So make sure you haven't accidentally gotten wrapped around anything else. Okay, to bring up the lower thread, hold your needle thread loosely, turn the hand wheel towards you, 1 full revolution, and it'll bring up your lower thread. What happens is the needle takes the needle thread down where the hook picks it up, wraps it around the bobbin, and that's what brings up your lower thread. Put your thread between the toes of the presser foot and towards the back of the machine. And chances are you've done the same operation 1,000 times, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm over teaching. All right, here we go. Drop your presser foot onto the fabric using the lever in the back, and set your stitch length. We're going to want a fairly short stitch. Somewhere around 2 is pretty average for regular threaded fabric. And the further up you go on the stitch length adjuster, the longer and longer your stitch lengths get until the longest stitch length is at the top, which is opposite of many machines. And then of course from the 0 going downwards, your stitches get longer and longer and longer, but in reverse. So we're going to set that around 2-ish. This is your stitch width, how far it's going to zig and zag from side to side. And let's see, I'm going to first make sure that the coffee grinder attachment is not engaged by pulling this thumb screw out and turning it until its little keeper pin here sets into the slot that's made for it. That just keeps it disengaged from the rest of the assembly back there, so you can use your stitch width freely. So I'm going to set the stitch width at 0 because we're going to straight stitch. Your tension on this one, there is, it's numbered, but really you have absolute freewheel control. So it should be in the ballpark when you get her, but if it's a little bit loose and loopy on the back, you may need to add a little more tension by turning it to the right, turning it up. If it seems too tight and puckery, you know, sometimes it gets moved in the shipment a little bit. If it's too tight, then just turn it to the left a little bit, counterclockwise to loosen it. Okay, here we go. Stitch length set at 2, stitch width 0. To zigzag, take your needle up out of the fabric and turn this knob as far to the left as you like, depending on the width of the zigzag you want. All the way to the left. On 4 is your widest zigzag. And that's what we'll do here. Fast and strong. What a good machine. You can go slow too, but let's see, we've talked about the stitch width, stitch length, stitch width. This is your feed drop if you want to do free motion sewing, darning, or machine embroidery or that type of thing. Turn this knob to the left and that drops your feed so the teeth never come up high enough to move the fabric along, and you're in control. At the same time, you'll want to loosen up this knob here, which is the pressure on your sewing foot, until you have little or no pressure on the fabric. Excuse me. And of course, an embroidery hoop is helpful if you're doing anything artsy. But we're going to keep the feed dogs up and just do regular sewing. But now we're going to go to the stitch pattern adapter on the back. The A lever is what selects your pattern. The B lever selects, it's a moderator. It modifies the stitch. The 0 position here is where the pattern is not affected at all. You're still just on zigzag or on straight stitch or wherever you were. But then you can go up from 1 to 2 to 3. And to move this lever, you first press towards the back, then you can move it up. We'll set it on 1 for starters. The A switch selects your pattern, and there's a little window down here with a number in it, which tells you which pattern you're on. So that was pattern 3, that's pattern, no, that was pattern 2, this is pattern 3, pattern 4, pattern 5, pattern 6, and then back to pattern 1. To connect the coffee grinder to the rest of the machine, this is your actuator knob here. You pull out a little bit and turn it until this little pin is free from its slot there. And then move your zigzag width lever until you're actually seated in the slot on the arm that comes from the back here. You'll understand it better when you see it up close. Again, you may already be familiar with this, but this will give you a good idea. So we're going to go with pattern 1, setting 1 on the B lever, and you just don't worry about the setting on this, on the stitch width, just make sure that it's seated, the pin that this knob is connected to is seated in the slot of the mechanism on the back. And here we go. This coffee grinder is a little bit noisy, which I think is part of how it got its name. You can see that as, here I'll go up a little bit wider on this. I'm going to go all the way up to 3 on the B lever. And you'll see as the machine cycles, these levers are going to move according to what's happening with the stitch pattern cams and levers inside. So here we go. This is making a diamond shape. That's stitch 1. Let's go to stitch 2, see what it does. This one is more of a half arrowhead, probably a name for it. Now let's see what this thing does when I change the setting on the B lever. I think it just adjusts the width of the pattern itself. Since you can't adjust the stitch width here, I think this is your stitch width when you're using the stitch pattern adapter. Let's see, stitch pattern 3. Let's go to stitch 4. Probably a little bit pointless since I don't really know the names of these stitches, but make sure they all work. Stitch 5. Obviously, this mechanism back here is operating your stitch width lever back and forth to change the pattern. And stitch 6. Okay. Anyway, so now I'm going to disengage the coffee grinder by moving the B lever back up to 0. I'll just leave this one on stitch 5 where it is right now. And we'll disconnect this pin from the mechanism by pulling it out and turning it until the little keeper pin faces straight up and it goes into its little resting spot there. I should also mention that you have a needle home position adjuster here. This lever you push in and go down for right hand home position, go all the way up for a left hand needle home position, and then back to the center for a center stitch position. And of course, since we're disengaged from the coffee grinder in the back, you're in control of the stitch width again. Can't think of anything else that needs to be mentioned. Your belt looks great. I think it's almost new. The coating kind of sticks out a little bit at the ends, but that's not a big deal. It's still good for years to come. This is your pass-through for your foot control. And you just slip this up into the rubber grommet on the plate and plug into it. I think that I'm going to change the position on these plugs so that the exposed pins are on the unpowered side. I think that would make a lot more sense, because if this should come loose, you don't want live wires dangling. So I will swap these, and the bottom plug will just come in from the bottom, and it will have the brass columns on it, and you just plug it in and you're powered again. So thanks for sticking with me for all this time. Finally got you a machine, and she's a really, really good one. This is one of the nicest Pfaff 130s I've worked on. So you found a good machine. I'll get her packed up and send you out an invoice, and once the invoice is paid, we'll pack her up and send her home. This is your foot control. The Singer foot control, obviously. And it has 2 buttons on it. This is your actuator button. This one is just a stationary button as a footrest. You can rest your foot on there and press as you're ready. Your plug is just a straight push-in, pull-out plug, just like on your toaster or your iron. You just pull it out, push it in. The metal parts here are never energized when they're not plugged in. This is just a separate thing, like your iron. They're absolutely safe and only energized when they're plugged in.